He was in his castle. Fluttershy just stood at the door, pulling on her cape. Do you really have to go? Discord asked. The Pegasus smiled. I'm only going out for the night, honey. After all, it's not every night Twilight comes into town. We haven't had a girls' night in ages. Yes, but, he twiddled his fingers, I thought we could, have a you and me night. He glanced down sadly, then felt Fluttershy's soft hoof lift his chin so his eyes met with hers, while her stare could never manipulate him in any way that it did to the other animals. Her loving gaze would always warm his heart, then she gently kissed on muzzle. Tell you what, she said, tomorrow we can drop off Screwball at Derpy's for a sleepover, and then spend the whole night together. How does that sound? His lips bit slowly into a smile and nodded. Besides, Fluttershy continued, it's not like you'll be alone. As if on cue, a 4-year-old Screwball appeared between them. Mommy, she chimed. Can you read me a bedtime story? Sure, honey, said the Pegasus said, taking the filly in her arms. Mommy has to leave now. No, I'm sorry. Where are you going? Well, I'm going out with your aunts, and I'll be back before morning, she kissed her daughter in the forehead. Be good for your father now. I will, Mummy. Once she was gone, Discord sunk into the couch with young Screwball tapped his leg. Why, Daddy sad? The Draconequest looked down at the sweet filly's eyes, and they were full of concern yet still adorable. Smiling softly, he lifted the toddler to his knee. Daddy just misses Mummy, that's all. Screwball nodded while understanding. Discord looked up and felt the chocolate milk drip on his head. He grinned when he saw it flailing from cotton candy cloud. He scooted over towards out of the way as a glass appeared to catch the milk. Feel better? Screwball asked. He turned out the filly and squeezed her in the crook of his arm. Yes, dear, feel better. The scene then shifted as Discord found himself in the garden. He glanced around at the greenery. All right, he called. Where are you? As he let out a laugh and spun around, Screwball, now a teenager, was peering out from behind the tree. Aha! She gasped and teleported out of her position. You can run, but you can't hide. She was about to look for his daughter when he heard another giggle, and this one delicate and more chanting. He grinned mischievously and moved quietly as possible towards the sound. Then he spotted a thick of pink behind a bush. Chuckling to himself, he's surprised that Fluttershy had scooped her up in his arms. You're it, he whispered. Fluttershy groaned. We need to make a new set of rules for this game. Rules, my dear. You haven't forgotten that who you're married? Agreed to? He then brought his lips down upon hers as she moaned in response. Do you guys do that every time you catch each other? The couple then pulled away to see Screwball, scowling at them with 2-month-old Zany in her arms. Then, yet again, the Draconequest said, we should have a new set of rules, like when they tag the creature kissed some pony. You're both it. What? Screwball then cried out as her parents pulled away from Zany into a group hug. They both were laughing, and the children could not resist the laughing as they tightened their embrace. The image rippled as Discord woke from his dream and then realized that he had fallen asleep on one of the clouds. He looked over and saw Zany cuddled up beside him, and he smiled at the infant's innocent face and petted his pink mane. That pink mane. It was just like Fluttershy's. Zany's eyes opened, revealing his spiral eyes. If they were purple, they would be just like Screwball's. Discord recalled the memories from his dream. Ah, those were the days, he muttered. Since he had fallen in love with her, Fluttershy had always brought joy to his miserable existence. The birth of Screwball that had been double that joy. They were a family. They loved each other, comforted each other, and when troubled, sure, they had their ups and downs, but they would always work it out at the end. Why couldn't it be that way again? He then knew the answer. Fluttershy had broken his heart. Since their marriage, they had been scarcely had been a day without Fluttershy. Even if she wasn't there, she would not be gone for long. Now that he thought about it, this was the longest day he had been apart, and it had been another big time where they had parted under the circumstances during the captivity, and they had nearly forced her into marriage at his anger and physically harmed her, and that's when he released her and did not see her again for 3 days. This was different. This time she was not coming back. Why would she? After all, it was clear that the way she kissed that stallion that would not have loved him that she had before, it had destroyed him. No one who told him that love will not always last forever. Then there was Screwball, his daughter, in his flesh and blood, with his chaotic powers. She was no different from her mother. She had left of him too, obviously not caring out how he felt. She and her mother were probably in home of that stallion, rejoicing of how they had broken the Lord of Chaos's heart. Discord shook his head. No, he wasn't broken. He was more powerful than any pony in Equestria. Look at the world I've created. He thought of it that it would prove that he was not weak, but as soon as his eyes laid on the chaotic town, his heart sank. It was so beautiful, but who was up to appreciate it? He glanced down at Zany, who was smiling up at him with a mouth open, and then at last it did least at him. But you're a fool, he whispered. You appreciated everything. He put his paw to his heart, and it was beating slower than usual, and he could feel the string snap. He had told his family time and time again that he was the most powerful form of chaos there was. How ironic that it might have been, if they lived there for that long. Ultimately destroy him. There he is! His ears perked up at the sound of Princess Twilight's voice. He looked down at the floor angrily. The 6 barriers of the elements of harmony were directed below him. But as every pony was Fluttershy, while the others glared up at him angrily. Their eyes were sad and pleading as he locked gaze with her. Despite everything that had occurred the last 2 days, despite the tension between them, he still thought that he was the most beautiful thing in the world to him. Are you listening to me? Discord then was so focused on his wife that he did not hear Twilight's words. I said your 24 hours are up. He scratched his head. 24 hours? Yeah, and I see you're still causing chaos. Still confused, he picked up Zany and flew down to them. Did I miss something? Yes, Rainbow Dash exclaimed. Your sanity? We'll give you one more chance, Discord, Twilight said. Unless you stop this madness now, we will have no choice but to use our elements of harmony. Discord's eyes widened in fear and then turned to Fluttershy. You're letting them do this? The Pegasus hung her head shamefully. I thought she changed, but I was wrong. He would not believe it. True, she had betrayed him, but he never had thought that she would be so cold to turn him into stone. He shivered at the memory of his stone prison. He could be frozen forever, but he would let alone be in the cold. He would be bound to hear about him and be no part of it. He knew all this but why he had to ask. Why, Fluttershy? Why? What have I done to drive you away? Was I a bad husband? Did I offend you? Or was it because I yelled at Screwball? Because I apologized for that. Hey, Applejack said, glancing around. Where is Screwball? Discord bit her lip. She's making cream cheese in Philadelphia. He could not help but tell them that Screwball had abandoned them, because if they did, they would knew that she would hate him and not even care if he were to turn to stone. But the fact that he was not with her and her mother, it worried him. Please, Discord, Fluttershy pleaded, stepping forth. It doesn't have to be this way. We can go home and be a family, like we should. But the stallion that I fell in love with, the stallion I married, the stallion whom I have raised my children. Her beautiful teal eyes were stained with tears. Discord, please! He wanted to do what she asked, to take into his arms, but the memory of seeing her with the other stallion still buried in his mind. If you love me so much, he snapped, why did you betray me? I didn't, Fluttershy insisted. It was, if you love me so much, why did you take their side? Discord, please listen. You would turn me into stone? Your husband? He yelled up Zany. The father of this child? Suddenly the baby vanished from his hands and reappeared on Fluttershy's back. Discord's hands fell on his sides. The Zany? He choked. His wife and daughter, and now his son, whoever was left of him, shattered his heart and destroyed in that moment. He fell to his knees in defeat. What was there left to live for? The 6 mares tilted their heads in confusion. Well, Discord uttered, he lifted his eyes slightly. What are you waiting for? Do it. Discord, Fluttershy started saying. I said do it! She gasped as she hung her head. Fluttershy turned to her sympathetically, and it was clear that it was equally shocked. I'm sorry, Fluttershy, she whispered. The 6 mares used the elements of harmony multiple times, but this time neither of them were willing to do it. Zany gritted evilly as Twilight's horn began to glow. Discord looked over at Fluttershy, who had tears streaming down her cheeks. He would not take his eyes off of her, not even to blink. Despite the fact that she was crying, he wanted that beautiful face the last thing he'd be seeing. Fluttershy, I love you, he said under his breath. He then gripped his hand, and something was about to come. Wait! Twilight stopped and looked up. Everyone did the same. Screwball zoomed overhead and landed between her, the father, and the ponies. You can't do this. Screwball, sweetie, Twilight said gently. Stand back. No, this is all a big mistake. Honey, please, Discord urged, not wanting his daughter to share his fate. Daddy, it wasn't Mom. Mom saw you kissing that stallion. It was a changeling. They both were. The Draconicus jaws dropped. What? Yes, Fluttershy shouted. It's true. I would never betray you, Discord. But why are you going to turn me to stone? Didn't you want me out of the way so you could run off with that stallion? It wasn't going to be forever. We were just going to put you in a timeout. I didn't want to, but after the way you acted yesterday and talked about ruling Equestria, I felt that I had no choice. What are you talking about? I didn't even say anything about ruling Equestria. That was Chrysalis, Screwball declared. Twilight raised an eyebrow. How do you know? The filly pointed at Zany. Why don't you, her as herself, be? The ponies gasped and turned to see that the baby, where her eyes was blazing with green fire. Fluttershy shrieked and then dropped him as he started to grow. And everyone backed away as they took the form of Chrysalis. She growled at Screwball. You're really a thorn on my side. You know that? It's her, Applejack cried. Discord grabbed Fluttershy and Screwball and pulled them closer, his teeth barred with the Changeling Queen. What have you done with my boy? He demanded. Doesn't matter, Chrysalis bellowed. What you should really be sorry for is yourself, but put Plan B into action. She whistled for everyone and a swarm of changelings filled the sky. Discord laughed. You really think a few bugs would stop me? And he snapped his fingers and teleported himself to the ponies. Ha, Discord said. Really repaired. I should show her, didn't I? He gasped as he saw Chrysalis right in front of her. They had not traveled a few inches, and the queen saw through her head back with a laugh. You fool, she taunted. Well, I was disguised as your son. I fed out your love, and whoever power you had left wasted on chocolate rain. No, the Draconiclets cried, looking down at his paw and clawed. It's not possible. Big mistake, Chrysalis, Twilight exclaimed, powering her horn. You're going back to the Changeling Forest where you belong. Just as the magic was about to transfer the crown, Twilight's horn vanished. What the? She gasped. How? Why does this always happen to me? I absorbed Discord's power, Chrysalis chuckled, as well as his daughters. So now you cannot use your magic. Nothing can stop me now. Peeking out her eyes. You're not a very nice lady. Really? Haven't I noticed this anything? They were surrounded by changelings now in the air on the ground. Chrysalis circled their victims. I've been wanting to get revenge on you for years, she gloated, and I pity Princess Cadence in shiny armor weren't there to join the party, but we'll see them later. I have watched you all of your perfect lives as well as just too perfect, so I spice things up a little. Twilight's faced the queen. What are you talking about? Oh, haven't you guessed it? She then gasped and spun around, and the sound of her own voice duplicated herself. I was the one who told your boyfriend years ago that there was nothing but peasants. The alicorn stiffened. What? Chrysalis turned back to herself. That was all I did, and of course, it was you who refused to talk things over with him. Shame, really. He had really bought a ring for you, too. Twilight clutched her heart, and at the same time, she had all the reasons Flash had did, but that was because he did not see how the relationship between a princess and a guard would work out. But with the talk of the Formentes, it was the most reasonable that threw out of it. That made sense that between the situation and their brother was a foal sitter. Now, she knew the real reason why she got the weight off the guilt of her shoulders. Flash, she uttered. Chrysalis had smirked and loomed over at the white unicorn. Your love, life, Miss Rarity. It was so not hard to ruin. Rarity gasped as the queen transformed into Fleur de Lis. I didn't even have to kiss him to make you angry, she said in a new voice. But of course, I had to when you decided to go back to him. And oh, he resisted me. He could not stop falling in love with me and cared how much about you. If only you had listened to him. The unicorn mimicked Twilight's gesture, tears forming in her eyes. After turning into the queen, the changeling turned to Applejack. And I was going to take Rarity's form and re-enkle your spiky wikey's old flame, but I decided to keep a friendship with the unicorn stable if you were going to turn Discord into stone. So that was all you? Twilight asked in disbelief. Indeed. I don't get it, Screwball said. I mean, I get why you're mad at him and all, but they helped you defeat it all, but why you have to pick on my dad? The changeling queen darted her eyes at the filly. So he'll know what it's like to have a broken heart. Without a warning, she shot a beam at Discord, sending him flying back into the gloating cottage. Berry Patchen stuck her head out of the window to see what was going on. Once she did, she slammed the shutters. Dad! Screwball cried. What do you want to be like the others? Chrysalis commanded her army. The Draconiclets is mine. The fair filly narrowed her eyes. Not if I can help it. With a great shout, she pounced onto the queen. Chrysalis yelped in surprise, but did not let her guard down. You little brat! Using her magic, she threw the filly off. Screwball landed in the crowd full of changelings. Screwball, Fluttershy shrieked, flying into the air. Hang on, sweetie. Mommy's coming. Stop her, Chrysalis yelled. Oh, no, you don't, Rainbow Dash exclaimed. Just as several changelings were about to parade Fluttershy, Rainbow whistled through them, knocking them over like bowling pins. Hold your ground, girls, Twilight commanded her friends. Fight them off as best as you can. The Cayenne Pegasus pounded her hooves together. Bring it on! She then let out a battle cry as she charged to the changelings, but stopped in her tracks before she could kick her youngest daughter. Prism? Rainbow questioned. The filly blinked up at her and smiled devilishly. Rainbow realized that the truth was too late when Prism divulged a right look. And of course, Fluttershy caught her friend in the air. Don't let them distract you, Twilight said. Remember, they're just changelings. Oh, really? The alicorn turned and looked at the side of her ex-boyfriend. It wasn't a changeling who broke your heart, Princess. It was the fake slashy sentry, said with a smirk. I was the one who said it over. Twilight shrieked and backed away from the other changelings disguised as Flash. But after all these years, it said, you wouldn't even talk to me. I said it was over, with to the third Flash, she said. But you agreed with me, said another. Twilight then tried to get away, but more flashes keep appearing and slowly closing in on her, and she wanted to block out the words outright, but they looked in so much like Flash. Don't listen to them, Twilight, Applejack called out. They're just lying, and the heaven forbid for them to do that. The cowgirl gulped in the sound of her beloved dragon voice. Soon the changelings all took a look at her and looked like Spike. It's funny how you're always so intent of telling the truth, one said. But one took forever to confess your feelings to me, the other finished with a cackle. But what if you hadn't told me? I would have married Rarity. But if you really want the truth, AJ, even though I'm married to you, you'll never be as pretty, as classy, as self-efficient as Rarity. That's when been always a nagging at your brain, huh? The fact was, I loved Rarity. First. Applejack covered her ears. No, it's not true. You're all lying. Spike loves me and he may love Rarity at first, but he chose me. Sure, it was you all he ever loved, or was it just the last resort? The last changeling screamed with a blast of magic. Rarity blew her at her horn. The nerve, she exclaimed, making dear Spiky Wikey seem like a monster. And you say I'm unfaithful? Rarity then turned and saw several changelings take the form of Fancy Pants. You still haven't had the dragon in high esteem, one said, and you accused me of adultery, another one finished. And yet again, you might be right about that. After all, I didn't tell you what I was going to say, and I didn't bother for defending myself when you caught me in the embrace. Honestly, dear, you became more boring after a while, always talking about Ponyville. You couldn't even give me a son. Stop it, Rarity shouted desperately. My Fancy Pants would not say such vulgar things. One directly behind him smirked. Maybe not to your face. The unicorn cried and blasted as many changelings as she could, but they just kept coming. Shouting insults at her, Rainbow Dash tried to defend and decided to lend a hoof and bowed towards the crowd. The Pegasus hesitated when the changeling beneath her turned into Prism. You wouldn't hit your own daughter, would you? It said, smiling up innocently. But before Rainbow Dash could respond, she was attacked from behind by copies of Soren and the twins. Meanwhile, Pinkie was grinning at the duplicate of Red's shoes. She snorted with laughter. Oh, if Red was here now, he would kick you out of this. The changeling tilted his head and then took a form of blueberry pie. Pinkie only snorted again. I love that trick of yours. Oh, do me, do me. The changeling groaned. Forget this. Then it tackled to the ground. All this, Fluttershy had been pushing for the army, searching for her daughter. Screwy, she called. Screwy, where are you? Mom! Fluttershy saw her daughter was running towards her, but her cell short-lived for a second. Screwball cut in between them. Stop, Mom. It's a trick. I'm the real Screwball. No, you're not, the first one insisted. I am. No, I am, said the third one. I'm Screwball. I'm Screwball. No, I am Spartaculus, Pinkie shouted. Once Chrysalis convinced that her army had been under control, she advanced towards her enemy. The Draconequest was recovering from his collusion, and he rubbed his head while attempting to rise. At last, the queen said, You're mine. She then cried out and then was hit with a ball of golden light. Guess again, Queenie, Discord said. I still have some power left. While the queen was composing herself, Discord scanned the round crowd for his family, then spotted his wife at the center of the circle with Screwballs. By the way she was quivering, it was no doubt that she was the real Fluttershy. Mom, you have to listen to me, one of the Screwballs said desperately. It's really me. She's lying, another one insisted. I'm the real one. No, I am. Fluttershy glanced over frantically at the Screwballs. Oh, which one is it? I don't know. Discord drove up to the center and then swept her up, then held his paw for the army of clones. Hold it. Screwball then quieted down. Okay, so there's only one way to find out who the real Screwball is. He cleared his throat and started singing. The most of the clones looked in confusion, but one smiled as he finished the line. Discord gritted and took the filly in his other arm. That's my girl. The changeling scowled and charged to the trio, but Discord made it quick and teleported out of the way, causing their attackers to collide. They reappeared only a few feet away, but at least they were so concealed on behind a hay cart. I'm so sorry, Discord said finally. Me too, Fluttershy said, taking his paw. Now is not the time, Screwball declared, ducking as a changeling flew overhead. Her father nodded. Right, you two stay here and keep each other safe. I'll take care of Chrysalis. Wait, Dad, can I fight? No, I lost you girls once and I'm not losing you again. But listen to your father, honey, Fluttershy said before turning to her husband. Be careful. I will, Discord uttered. But Screwball still protested. You're still not strong enough, Dad. She'll kill you. She then kissed her on the forehead. I'll be fine. Then he turned to his wife and then Screwball and saw sorrow pass between their eyes. A tear fell down through his cheek as Discord laid his hand on his love's shoulder, then pulled her in for one last hug and kiss. Fluttershy clung to him, not wanting to let go. As if they were sharing their last embrace, they did not want to pull away, but the screams from their friends forced them to. I love you, Fluttershy said abruptly. Discord caressed her cheek. And I love you too. They were leaning in to kiss again when a sing from the changeling fell upon them. Yeah, you should probably go, Fluttershy started to say. Yeah. Discord flapped his wings and then entered the sky. Hey, Chrissy, he said. Your mother eats stink bugs. The queen growled and chased after him. The others were flying off the other changelings and they were outnumbered. Rainbow Dash was prepping for a sonic boom when something tapped her leg. Mom, Prism cried. Rainbow huffed. No way, I'm not falling for that again. What are you talking about? The filly yelped as the mare lifted her by her tail. Time to teach you a lesson. She bolted up into the sky. The filly grasped a shriek in horror. Mom, what are you doing? Are you nuts? Says the one who says to pull the fast one on Rainbow Dash. So long, sucker. Mom, don't. Rainbow released the filly and screamed and plummeled to the ground. She flapped her wings, but they were not strong enough to lift her body. As soon as Rainbow saw this, her eyes widened. Prism? Help! Prism thought that she was a goner. She closed her eyes and prepared for impact, but the ground never came. When she opened her eyes, she saw that she was on her mother's back. What gives, Mom? She exclaimed. Were you trying to kill me? You know I can't fly yet. Instead of answering, Rainbow set her down on the balcony and hollered. What the hey were you doing here? I told you to stay inside. I wanted to help, the filly insisted. You could get killed out there. Prism then folded her forearms. Yeah, you make me your point, and when you dropped me from the sky, I thought you were a changeling. Where's your father and the twins? Aren't they keeping you out of trouble? Rainbow, Applejack shouted as she threw a changeling disguised as cinnamon roll off her back. Could you save the lecturing for later and give us a hoof here? The Pegasus darted her eyes then at her daughter. Don't leave this spot. But this isn't even our house, Prism protested. Her mother ignored her and returned to the fight. Seconds later, Dinky walked up beside the filly. What is going on the balcony? The unicorn asked, turning to the battle. And what's going on? She gasped. All of our clones have the moon fully attacked? Prism then stared at the unicorn strangely and shook her head. Down below, Twilight was kicking wildly at the flash duplicates. I missed my horn, she grumbled. Then she had an idea and spread out her wings and flapped them as strongly as she could and blew the changelings off balance. Twilight smiled smugly. Oh yeah, she said, admiring her wings. I just love these. There's too many of them, Applejack yelled as she fended for the duplicates of Cinnamon Stick. But we need help, Rarity cried, blasting copies of Gemstone. Behind the hay cart, Screwball was trying to convince her mother to let her help the others. Your father told us to stay put, Fluttershy exclaimed. But Mom, I could fight them. No, I will not let you get hurt. Screwball was about to protest further when she saw a familiar cry. She peered over at the cart and saw a gray stallion with his mismatched eyes charging through the crowd. A light blue Pegasus fly multicolored while riding on her back. They were both in the kitchen strainers and helmets, and the Pegasus waved with a wooden spoon. Screwball could not believe her eyes. Dinky and Prism? It did not take long for Rainbow Dash to notice the pair. Prism, Soren, Dash, she bellowed. You're in big. She was then caught off by a copy of Soren pounced on her. Still charging, Dinky and ignited her horn and blasted as many changelings got in their way. Some attacked from the side, only to be kicked in the face by Prism. Take that, you punk, the filly cried. Taste, she paused and saw another changeling. The Prism! At that moment, Thunder and Lightning Dash frowned in the distance. They had been searching for their little sister what seemed to be like hours. Their jaws had dropped when they saw her riding Dinky, battling the changelings, and her mother had no equal expression on her face. Applejack smirked at her. You've got a tough one right there, little girl there, Rainbow. Yeah, but we're still outnumbered, this Twilight declared. Pinky then leapt into the air. I still got it. She put her hoof over her mouth and whistled. Before she could blink, the Tripies obediently answered their mother's call. Get the party cans ready, girls, Pinky commanded. And tell Daddy to bring the bunny. Oh, are we gonna throw a party? Blueberry asked excitedly. Oh yes, girls. Mama assures you it's gonna be a blast. Yay, the tree cheered. simultaneously. As soon as they quickly made arrive, they left and returned the free miniature cannons, matching the colors of their fur, and larger blue cannons for their mother. Daddy will be here in a minute, Raspberry explained. Pinky's lips broke into a devious smile. Excellent. Will this party have games, Mummy? Cherry inquired. Yes, it's called Ponies vs. Clones. The rules are you blast as many clones as you can, and the one who gets the most gets the cupcake. No, make that 10 cupcakes. Oh, and she then stuck a black mustache on her lips. You must wear these mustaches at all times. The triplets quickly obeyed and putting their mustaches on at the same time. Good, now she turned to the party cannon, surprising the changeling impersonating her. Say hello to my little friend. The tripies cheered as they they fired confetti at the changelings, and hoping on getting some cupcakes. High above, lightning snapped and thunder on the back, knocking him out of his shock. There is no way we're getting upstaged by the flightless baby sister and a bunch of confetti weapons. Yeah, her brother agreed. Let's give him some thunder. And lightning. They hoof-bumped each other and then flew off to grab a cloud, and then emerging over the two clouds together, they kicked their back legs and turning the large cloud and causing it to rumble. Then the bolt of lightning struck one of the changelings, singing to its rear. The other twins laughed and continued kicking the cloud, striking with all the enemies in range. Meanwhile, Pinky was rapidly firing their cannon at the Red Shoes and tapped her on the shoulder. Well, what took you so long? She exclaimed. It's really you, right? The stallion tilted his head and touched his face. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm me. He then took off his magician hat and led out to her. I got the bunny. Excellent, she pointed at the Ponyville fountain. Now get up there and show them your stuff, baby. Red Shoes grinned and then he jumped onto the rim of the fountain. Changelings and gentle mares, he announced. There are several changelings paused for a moment and just stared at a red-headed stallion in confusion. Behold, he bellowed. Inside this hat in the audience, not an ordinary hat, completely empty. He pulled out the sleeves of magician's jacket. Nothing up my sleeve, he then reached up and presto! Red Shoes pulled out a set pair of pink ears that were much too large to fit the hat. Then he continued pulling the changelings cowered in fear. Before they stood 6-foot-tall rabbit, Ven, with sharp fangs and long claws, and of course foaming at the mouth. Okay, Harvey, Red Shoes said, gesturing to the changelings. They're all yours. The enormous rabbit roared and some of the changelings screamed and fled, and others stood their ground and were being whacked by Harvey's incredibly large paw. The mares and fillies looked up at the monster and all. Where did you, Applejack, start to ask? A little magic trick that gone wrong, Red Shoes explained. I've been saving this for emergencies like this. Pinky sighed. Isn't it just the greatest? While the army was still being vanquished by the giant rabbit, Chrysalis scanned her town for her prey. Come on out, you coward, she bellowed. Oh, honestly, Chrissy, called Discord's voice. You used to love hide and seek. What happened to you? She growled. You happened to me. Her ears perked up when she heard a snap of twig behind her. She turned around just as Discord landed on her back. The two began to wrestle each other, rolling in the dirt and taking turns pinning each other to the ground. What did you mean by that? Discord demanded. The queen then shouted and we switched places so she was on top. I was perfectly fine until you came into my life. Oh, how tragic. He rolled onto her back. I'll send an apology card. He cried out as she kicked him in the stomach, forcing him off of her. The queen then stood grudging down at him. You've heard the changelings don't have hearts, but don't you ever wonder why that was? Discord was caught by surprise by the question and scratched his head, trying to think of a witty comeback. Revolution? She groaned. Even after all these years, you're still ignorant. The changelings are always heartless. I had my heart when we met. Do you remember those days, don't you? He scowled. You mean the one you tricked me and made me a pawn in your scheme and to conquer Equestria? Oh, Equestria was never part of the plan. When you took over, I simply saw an opportunity and took advantage of it. But you said, I lied. The real reason why I sent you to Equestria so you could feel the pain on how I knew these ponies would never accept you, just as you never accepted me. What are you talking about? Discord asked again. You're not making sense, he paused. Now, never, and never knew how annoying that could be. Now the queen was said ominously. I can have my revenge. For what? For rejecting me! Discord then could not remember the last time when he or she had been more shocked. He blinked multiple times before he was able to speak. Wait, you had a crush on me? He paused. I didn't even know whether I'd be flattered or disgusted. Chrysalis cried out angrily and charged up with her horn. Discord quickly scattered out of the way and hid behind a rock. You rejected me! She shouted again. In my defense, Discord called desperately, I had no way knowings. He then rushed up to the garbage can as Chrysalis shattered the rock into millions of pieces. When I realized you had no love in your heart for anything, she growled, I sent you to Equestria so you knew what a rejection felt like. Discord then moved behind a crate as the queen destroyed the hiding place. I thought you and I were alike, she continued. The two outcasts of a world of rejection. I thought you understand. She blasted the crate, revealing the Draconic Quest huddled into the ball and hurried inside a mailbox. But I couldn't help but thinking about you, Chrysalis admitted, her voice crackling. I had to take the pain away. So in using the spell, I had to cover the book of dark magic. I removed my heart from my chest. Of course, Discord gagged. That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? He teleported to the mailbox, and then he heard her horn charged up, and he watched her explode into paper. Discord searched frantically for another place to hide. And the spell that I did more than I thought, Chrysalis said, smirking at how helpless he looked. When I became queen and started having children, I discovered that my new race of changelings lacked the hearts as well. Unfortunately, it meant that we had to fill the empty space in our chests with loves from others. And oh, but that was all worth it. From feeding the love of others, we gained power. And power is much stronger than any emotion you could ever reflect upon me. And with you out of the way, Equestria will be ours. Now, Chrissy, Discord said, holding up his hands and backed away. Let's not get hasty. I would have worked it out. I mean, you didn't eat your last 3 husbands? Chrysalis growled and was about to cast another spell when something hit her back and she turned her head. She looked over and saw that it was an apple. Who threw that? She demanded, spinning around. Lined up was a wooden table with the purple dragon and 2 adults and fillies, a colt with a bandaged head, and a muscular red stallion. They were all wearing pots and pans on their heads and each of them holding an apple except for the younger filly. Good shoot, cuz! Apple Blossom exclaimed. Named Cinnamon Roll cracked her hooves. It's all in the ankles. Now let's be ready to teach her a lesson. The Apple family way, right, Pa? Yup. Big Macintosh nodded. Ready? Cinnamon Stick exclaimed. Aim. The apples raised in their ammo. Fire! They threw the apples at the queen, who was too stunned to dodge them. And Cinnamon Roll tossed them towards Spike and set them on fire and batted one on his tail. Chrysalis shrieked as they burned her. Why, you meddling! She prepared her horn to vaporize of the lot when she heard Discord fell to the ground. She turned to him and saw that he was running away. I'll deal with you later, she shouted at the family. Discord then looked up to see the queen flying after him. He flapped his wings and hoping he would pick up speed, but she landed on him with a thud. Now I can. She trailed off as she saw the battle in progress. Most of the army had fallen, but the size of a giant rabbit? No, she cried. We will not lose, especially to a bunny. She then fired at the rabbit, bits back, and it roared and enveloped around him. Then there was a flash of light that the giant's place was now just a tiny, fluffy bunny. The white bunny. It just hopped away in fear. Harvey! Rawhide Shoes exclaimed. Oh my gosh! Screwball uttered. She's gained more power than I thought. Fluttershy squealed as she saw her husband lying beneath the queen's hooves. No more interruptions, Queen Chrysalis declared, her horn glowing green. Say your prayers, Dissy dear. Discord tried to struggle out of her grasp, but he was too weak. Discord! Fluttershy cried. She flew out of her hiding place and Screwball reached for her tail, but missed. Mom, don't! A shot of beam from the queen's horn, painfully scream was heard. Every pony, even some changelings, were silent, turned to the sound. Screwball's eyes were wide. Discord's mouth fell open, and the others just stared at the horrific scene. Even Chrysalis watched in shock as the yellow Pegasus fell limply to the ground.